Today we're going to be discussing airspaces. First thing we need to do when discussing airspaces is break them down into categories. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo are all going to be controlled airspace, while Golf is going to be uncontrolled. First thing we're going to talk about is the dimensions. From there, we'll discuss the speeds, speed limits of the sky, both above, below, and within this airspace. So we'll move on to the equipment required for each airspace, above, below, within. From there, we'll move on to the VFR minimums, the weather minimums. That's how we're going to decide we're going to fly that day. Then we'll talk about clearances, and finally we'll end on what type of pilot you need to be before you can fly within this airspace. So we'll start by talking about the dimensions. Up first is going to be alpha airspace. Alpha airspace starts at 18,000 feet MSL and extends up to flight level 600 at 60,000 feet. After 18,000 feet, we start referring to altitudes as flight levels. After 60,000 feet, echo starts. Next, we'll talk about Bravo airspace. Bravo airspace encompasses the larger airports within the country. DFW, San Francisco, Atlanta, these are the large players. This is where the big jets go. And typically, they go up to 10,000 feet MSL. On the map, when you see these, they're going to have solid blue lines around them. And it's going to be depicted like so. With the top number being the ceiling, 10, and the number below it being 40. So that's 4,000 on this shelf. 25 on this shelf. And this shelf would be to the surface. 10,000 to the surface. These numbers are all given in MSL. That's because our altimeter reads MSL, and thus making it easier to stay out of this airspace. The next largest airspace is going to be Charlie airspace. Charlie airspace is typically 10 nautical miles wide on the top shelf. So it goes up to 4,000 feet AGL. And 2,500 feet AGL. On the mushroom top, that is. On the inner portion of the airspace that goes all the way down to the surface, it is typically 5 nautical miles wide. It is depicted on the chart like this. In MSL. So 4,000 is an AGL, but it's depicted as MSL on the chart, again, because that's what our altimeter reads and it's easier to navigate on the fly. This one would be 46, just talking about our local altitudes down to the surface. Delta Airspace is going to be up to 2,500 AGL, and it's typically 4 nautical miles wide, although that does change. It is depicted on charts, a little broken box, and that is also an MSL. So I just added on 6 to it just to talk about a local training environment. Okay, Echo Airspace is controlled airspace that takes up the majority of the airspace out there. What is not Alpha, what is not Bravo, what is not Charlie or Delta, it's typically either Golf or Echo. And Echo can go down to the surface. That's primarily to protect untowered airports with instrument approaches. It can go up to 1,200 feet and around large areas, large airport areas. I think we have like 35 airports within the DFW area. You'll typically have a ring of Echo airspace down to 700 to protect those approaches. Gulf airspace goes up to 14,500 MSL, and it can go down to the surface. It has no dimensions. And pardon me, Echo also takes up the room above Bravo, above Charlie, above Delta, and then again above Alpha. One thing I did miss in Bravo, there is another line, a veil around it that we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about equipment. Okay. Speed limits. Alpha airspace is up to Mach 1. Echo airspace above 10,000 is going to be Mach 1. I did discuss some Bravos go up a little bit higher. For instance, locally, our airspace, our Bravo goes up to 11,000, and the airspace above Bravo at 11,000, you can actually go up to Mach 1. Below Bravo, it's going to be 200 to protect those instrument approaches, and these are all in knots, by the way. Within Bravo, it's going to be 250 knots, and some Bravos have what we call a VFR corridor, where you don't need permission to enter or anything like that, and the speed limit within those is going to be 200 knots. Speed limit within Charlie is going to be 250 knots, except for a 4 nautical mile radius right around the airport. To protect those approaches, it's going to be 200 knots. Airspeed in Delta is going to be 200 knots. And below 10,000 feet, it's going to be 200 knots in Gulf. And above, it's going to be Mach 1. Equipment. For Alpha airspace, you're going to need to be IFR equipped. For Echo airspace, you're going to have ADS-B. For Bravo airspace, you're going to need to have ADS-B, Mode C transponder. That's an altitude reporting transponder. And 2-way radios. And then I talked about this 30 nautical mile veil. Within 30 nautical miles of a Bravo airport, you're going to have a Mode C transponder activated. Charlie airspace, you're going to have a Mode C. You're going to have ADS-B. And you're going to have 2-way radio. And then above Charlie, up to 10,000, you're going to have a transponder that has Mode C. Within Delta, you're going to have two-way radio and ADS-B. And within Golf, don't need anything. There are quite honestly a lot of aircraft out there without any electronic equipment in them at all. Okay, that's equipment. VFR minimums. Alpha doesn't really have any because to get to Alpha, you have to be on an IFR flight plan. So by its very nature, you're going to be flying by instruments, so clouds really don't matter. Within Bravo airspace, it's 3 miles clear of clouds. Within Charlie, it's 3 miles, 3 statute miles, 1 above, 5 below, and 2,000 feet laterally. Same thing in Delta, 3 statute miles, 1 above, 2 below, 5 below, and 2 laterally. Echo airspace above 10,000 feet is going to be 5 statute miles, 1 above, 1,000 above, 1,000 below, and 1 statute mile laterally. Golf airspace above 10,000, day or night, 5 statute miles, 1,000 above, 1,000 below, and 1 statute mile laterally. Golf at 2,500 feet AGL above, during the daytime it's 1 statute mile, 1,000 above, 500 below, and 2,000 laterally, and at night it's 3,152, 3,000, 3 statute miles visibility, 1,000 above, 500 below, and 2,000 laterally. During the daytime, under 2,500 AGL, it's going to be 1 mile clear of clouds, and then 1 statute mile, 3 statute miles, 1,000 above, 500 below, and 2,000 laterally. Okay. Oh. VFR minimums clearances. To get into the Bravo, you're going to need to be explicitly cleared. You are cleared into the Bravo. And you need to hear your tail number. You are cleared. Charlie, just two-way communication. And hear your tail number. Same thing with Delta, two-way communication. And cleared, and just two-way and your tail number, and that's establishing two-way communication. Alpha, you're going to need to be on an IFR flight plan. Again, so you're cleared typically on the ground. You can get a pop-up IFR clearance. However, typically these planes are cleared into the ground, on the ground. The Echo does not need a clearance. The Golf does not need clearance. Certificates to get in, private pilot, or if you're a student, you need to be endorsed with a 61.95 Alpha to fly through and a 61.95 Bravo to actually land. There are 12 Bravo airports across the U.S. that student pilots are not allowed to fly in or land at, and DFW Airspace Bravo is actually one of those. The rest of the airports, Charlie, Delta, Golf, Echo, all you need is a student pilot certificate, and then Alpha, you're going to need a IFR certificate to fly within this airspace. Okay, and that concludes airspace. Thank you for your time.